Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk to you about wedding planning and everything that is wedding planning. So I thought the best way to do this was to ask you guys questions on Instagram about what you had questions about when it came to wedding planning, all that good stuff, and I'm just going to answer those questions, and that would be kind of like my how to plan a wedding advice for you guys. So I am going to open up my Instagram app and go to that story and look at the questions for you guys. So the first question asks about stress, and it asked, well, what was the biggest cause of stress for the wedding? And I guess this kind of goes along again with like advice that I would have if you were planning your own. And for me and Kyle, not just me, but also Kyle, we had kind of two big stressors. The first, of course, was money. It was really hard planning a wedding and paying for it, especially with us both in school. And then secondly, it was definitely trying to please everyone, which I don't recommend you doing. Your wedding is your day. It needs to be what you want and what your future husband wants. Like, you shouldn't be planning for everyone else. It is the blending of two families, and you do want to include everyone, and you want to like make sure everyone feels included and involved. But you shouldn't sacrifice what you want for other people, because you're going to be spending thousands of dollars, and that would really suck if you spent thousands of dollars for something that you didn't even enjoy or love. And two, when you get married, you are forming your own life with that person, and you have to learn how to put your foot down if you don't necessarily agree with what everyone else wants you to do. So that was definitely the two biggest stressors for us, were money and trying to make everyone happy, which of course you can't do. So that was definitely two of the more stressful things. And I'll get into more about money later, because I know there are a lot of questions about saving and all that good stuff. Another question that I had was about wedding dress shopping and how you know the dress is the perfect dress, or how do you even start with that stuff. And for me, I am not the girl who dreamed of her wedding since she was little. I'm just not. When I went wedding dress shopping, I didn't really want to try on thousands of dresses. I just wanted something where I felt like I looked beautiful and it was very me. So for me, I didn't cry. I wasn't like, oh my gosh, this is the dress. I wasn't emotional, because that's just not my personality. What I recommend though, when it comes to wedding dress shopping, is to go either with one other person or by yourself before you go with a big group, because I did that and it was really nice for me, because I was able to decide what I liked and what I didn't like outside of everyone else's opinions. Because at the end of the day, you have to feel beautiful in what you're wearing, and it doesn't really matter what anyone else thinks. So for me, I just went and tried on a few dresses with just two other people. I didn't have my whole family there, and I found the style that I really liked and the fit and all of that stuff. And then I kind of stumbled into a dress that I thought would be kind of perfect, and after I did that, then I took my entire family with me and let them pick out dresses for me and all that good stuff, because I knew what I wanted at the end of the day, and I had no problem trying on dresses to make other people happy and to see me in a bunch of dresses. But it was just nice for me to have my own opinion and to form it before anyone could influence me at all. So that would be my advice when it comes to wedding dress shopping. Question I got asked is, how far in advance do you recommend starting? My advice is, it kind of depends on the wedding. With the destination wedding, I started a year in advance, but I definitely didn't need to do that. I still have so much time to get the little details down. I'm really not stressed at all. But I think if you're having a bigger wedding with a lot of people, you should start at least a year in advance, because a lot of venues book up like a year before, and so it's important to start with that early. I think honestly, that's the number one thing. I would book your venue photographer and videographer as far in advance as you possibly can, because those are the things that tend to fill up and get booked really, really quickly. And then all the other stuff you can just kind of fill in as time goes on. So I don't know, I had about a year to plan, and that really worked well for me. The next thing that I got asked has to do with keeping track of everything. It says, how do you keep track of what you've done / what you have left to do? My advice would be to make an Excel spreadsheet, because that makes things 10 times easier. I have an Excel on like Google Docs, and I have everything that we have to pay, and then I have the dates that everything is due, how much we've paid and how much we have left, and then after we've paid something off, I mark it in yellow so I know that it's done. And then at the very bottom of that Excel spreadsheet, I also have like all the different places for the honeymoon, how much that's gonna cost, and all that good stuff. I also have a wedding planner, and I recommend having one if you are doing a destination wedding, because it will make your life 10 times easier, especially when it comes to vendors and knowing what to do there in some place that you're not familiar with. So 10 out of 10 would recommend that. My wedding planner also has an Excel spreadsheet where she keeps everything, and everything we have to do, it's kind of like a to-do list, and everything that I have to do as a bride is highlighted in green. So that's extremely helpful. So I would recommend writing everything down, because don't try to keep track of it in your head, it just won't work out. I also recommend having an Excel spreadsheet with all the payments and everything you have to do. And lastly, I also recommend setting date reminders in your calendar. So every time I know that a payment's due, I have it in the spreadsheet and in my calendar, so I'm reminded to get things done. So that's kind of how I keep track of what I've done and what I haven't done, and I would really recommend doing that. Someone else asked, how do you balance planning a wedding with the rest of your life? So I was in college, I just graduated, planning most of my wedding, and my advice is to schedule specific times to do things. For me, I knew I had the summer before I started my senior year to really get a lot of planning done, and that's what I did. I did most of my planning over the summer, so that way throughout the school year I didn't have to stress about it too much. And I also recommend, if you're a really busy person, again, to get a wedding planner, because they will just make your life 10 times easier. You basically just have to say yes or no to things and send payments when they're due. So that's really helpful. I personally didn't use my wedding planner's help when it came to photography, videography, and I think that's it. But just those two things I didn't use my wedding planner for, because I had very specific ideas about what I wanted. But that's kind of my recommendation, is to I'm very organized when it comes to my time. I have a Google Calendar, and I have times blocked off for what I'm doing when, and I just suggest you block off maybe 2 hours a week for wedding planning. I really don't think you need more than that, unless you're having an insanely huge wedding where it devotes more time. But again, if you're doing that and you're a busy person, I recommend getting a wedding planner. It's going to be worth the money for you, instead of spending your life stressing about getting stuff done. I would budget money for that and maybe take money away from something else, because I love having a wedding planner. It makes my job as a bride 10 times easier, especially when I had school and everything else going on. Someone asked what the challenges are with a destination wedding. The challenging part is vendors and finding the best in a place that you're not familiar with, which is, again, I keep saying this, but that's why you should have a wedding planner, because they help you with that. But that's definitely the most challenging part, is kind of knowing who to book and who's better, who's not, who has the best deals, the best prices. You don't know those things as someone who is gone. The second biggest challenge, I think, is the time difference. It's hard because Hawaii, I think there's a 6-hour difference, so the phone calls I have with the planner and all that stuff, there's that time gap, so that's kind of a struggle. And then what's the other hardest thing? Ooh, the hardest part is picking a place. Kyle and I went back and forth with so many places. We both have been to Spain, and we both love Spain, and thought it'd be so beautiful to get married in Spain, and then we realized, let's go somewhere we haven't been. Haven't been to Hawaii, and that's why we decided to go, and it's one of the most beautiful places ever. So I'm really, really excited about that. But I think with destination weddings, definitely it's so hard to choose a place, and I would just choose a place that is meaningful to the both of you, and is beautiful, and is worth getting on a flight for. I think it would also be really pretty to get married in the mountains, even in Denver. That could be a destination for someone. It doesn't have to be some crazy location like Spain or Hawaii. You could still do a destination wedding to Florida or Denver. I would just, if you're gonna go through the trouble of having it somewhere not in your hometown, then I would do it in a place that is aesthetically pleasing and is gonna give you a backdrop to a wedding that you wouldn't have in your hometown. So that's my thought on destination weddings. Someone also, it's kind of the first question about what's the most stressful part that would surprise people, how hard it is to have to make those decisions. Even when you think about bridesmaids, for example, which is another reason why I didn't want to have it here, because that thought stressed me out so much, because I didn't want to leave anyone out. I didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings. So it was just easier to be we're going far away, so not that many people could come, and because I love all of my friends, and if I could, every single one of my friends would be a bridesmaid, but you can't have 13 people as bridesmaids, so that was stressful. So I think what will surprise people is what seems like the fun parts are actually the most stressful, because you don't want to let anyone down and you don't want to upset anyone. The next question is about money, which I know a lot of people are wondering about. It asks, how did you learn to save money strictly for the wedding? As soon as we got engaged, I opened a savings account because I didn't have one, which is kind of crazy. Like, I should have been saving money a long time ago. But each time I got paid, or each time I got money, I would stash at least $100 from that payment into the savings account. Sometimes it would be smaller, like say I got $50, I would put 10 and then the 40 to pay everything else that I needed to pay. So eventually that all adds up. Like, I mean, Kyle and I have paid probably like $20,000 so far, mostly on our own for the wedding, and we saved that money and made those payments. So I don't know, you just have to be really disciplined, and every single time you get some form of payment, some form of money, even if it's just like $5, you need to put it away for the wedding. And I think it's also important when it comes to due dates and payments that you know about that payment a month in advance and you have that payment ready to go at least 2 weeks before it's even due. Actually, honestly, I think it could be sooner, but sometimes Kyle and I were really close when it came to payment due dates. But it's nice to have a payment a month in advance, and then you could start saving for the next one. So it's not like you're constantly trying to pool and find money last minute, that you have that, okay, in a month I have this payment, so I need to stash X amount of money away in order to pay that on time. I remember reading like some financial book, actually when I was at the Children's Museum with my uncle and aunt, but it was saying that you should a year in advance look at how much money you need to pay for something, and then each month, if you divide it by 12, that's how much money you should be stashing away each month. And I mean, the same logic applies. I mean, you just divide it by whatever the number, like say you have 30 days to pay for something, then you could divide the payment by 30, and that's how much money you should be stashing away a day. Like, it's that same logic. So that could be really helpful. I don't know. Money's kind of hard, and everyone's on a different paycheck, so that could be really challenging. But I know Kyle and I didn't have a ton of money and we made it work. My second advice would be cut corners where you can. Like, for example, destination wedding was actually our way of cutting corners. It was like 3 times cheaper for us to have a destination wedding than a huge wedding here with everyone. And knowing that we couldn't afford a big, huge wedding, we opted for the smaller wedding route. And also when it comes to florals, I know you could get most of your flowers in bulk at Costco or something, and it'd be cheaper than going to like a floral business. Kyle and I decided that there were 2 things that we were really passionate about and were willing to spend a lot of money on. And one was the videographer and the second was the photographer. So, I mean, those 2 combined were like, this is gonna sound so crazy when I say it, were like $19,000, and everything else was not that much money because that's what we cared about and that's what we were willing to spend the money on. Our venue was only like $1,500, and other stuff is just not that expensive. I didn't even spend that much money on my dress. I spent like, well, my mom paid for most of my dress, but it was like $1,600. My veil was probably like $50. Like, I didn't spend a ton of money on things that I didn't feel were as important. And I love my dress, like my dress is beautiful, but I didn't feel a need to spend $5,000 on a wedding dress. But I did want to spend good money for a photographer and a videographer. So you need to decide what the top 3 most important things to you are, and then split your money accordingly to put more money towards those things. That's what we did. I mean, even when it comes to our venue, we're getting married on a beach, a private beach, but in Hawaii it's illegal to like have a ton of decorations, so we can't even have like chairs or benches or anything on the beach. But that cuts money. Like, I don't have to spend money for wooden benches. I don't have to spend money for like florals to decorate the aisle. Rather, we can only have like really simple flowers and florals and decorations on the beach, so that's not that much money. And to us, that was a way to cut a corner. So I would just like look for the small ways where you can cut money and not spend as much money, because at the end of the day, yes, you want your wedding to be beautiful, yes, you want to love it, but at the same time, it's the marriage, not the wedding, that really matters. And Kyle and I know that, so we didn't feel the need to spend like $60,000 on one day. We would rather save money for the future. The next question asks about wedding count and how many people are coming to my wedding and how you know the perfect number. I really think this just depends on the person. For me, Kyle and I spend so much of our time with large groups of people, and everything that we do is celebrated with large groups of people, which is amazing, love it. But for our wedding, I really wanted to go the opposite of that. I just wanted it to be so small and so intimate because I feel like it'll make it 10 times more special that way. So I wanted a smaller wedding, and there was a money factor. Like, we couldn't afford a big wedding, but we could afford a small one. So I think it just depends on the person. For us, the perfect number was 25. For someone else, it may be 300. I think that's more of a you call and what you can afford and what kind of vibe you want to go for on your wedding day. Someone else asked about venue and how you pick a venue and what did you look for. For me, I wanted something that I wouldn't be able to get in Indiana. There were so many beautiful places in Hawaii that we could have chosen, but some of them, to me, I was like, okay, but this could have been an Indiana wedding and I'm paying to go to Hawaii. So we decided to have it on a beach where you can see so much of the beautiful scenery of Hawaii, and I think it's something really unique to Hawaii, and all the venues that we looked at had to do with being able to see the beautiful nature in Hawaii, the beautiful views in Hawaii. So that's how we picked a venue, and a lot of it also is, again, dependent on price. I'm really happy with our venue. I think it's beautiful. I think in pictures and video it's going to turn out amazing, which is another thing to think about, like aesthetically, what the venue looks like, because that really matters when it comes to videos and pictures and stuff like that. But yeah, so price, location, and aesthetic were the three things that I thought about and looked for when picking a venue. So that's what I have to say about that. All I'm going to answer for now when it comes to wedding tips, planning questions. If you guys want me to do a Q&A that's more specifically about Kyle and I's wedding, now that it's getting closer, it's only 2 months away, which is so insane. But if you want a video about that, I can do that in another video. But I wanted this video just to be about wedding planning and tips and tricks and all that good stuff. If you have any other questions, leave them in the comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe before you go. And I'm going to be posting so regularly now, so you might as well hit the bell notification so that way you know when I upload. My goal is every Tuesday and Thursday with bonus days if I'm just crazy when it comes to recording. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope I answered the questions in a way that was helpful to you. But yeah, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.